My name is James Martinez, and I'm an author, an artist, and a poet. And I've recently written the book, Eternus Spirare. It's my second book. The first book is titled Once Upon a Transcendent Realm, and that came out in the beginning of 2013. I want to talk a little bit about this journey and the story behind the book, the things that I've had to endure to get to this place. And I'd like for you, whoever you are, wherever you are, to become acquainted with the story. I had the blessing to be in the presence of God our Father. I had an opportunity to meet with Him. Him and I became friends over the years, and I've been in the presence of the Holy Trinity. I've walked with God our Father and with Jesus Christ, and God filled me with the Holy Spirit. I share these stories and these exciting adventures and journeys and tales with everybody. They are something that God has blessed me with, and it's been a challenge to get to this place. I want to share a little of what I've had to endure to get here. When I first agreed to write with God, for God, the first book is what transpired. He gave me this extraordinary view of life and of creation, and He allowed for me to be part of it for a very long time now. And He left proof of that back in time on our transcendent journeys. I explain all that within the first book, Once Upon a Transcendent Realm. I talk about the different spiritual insights and the space and time and symmetry and the spiritual insights that all reveal this journey. The second book, Eternus Spirare, is what God's allowed for me to understand in terms of views of the ways of the world versus otherworldliness. I write a lot about faith and belief and the understandings between them, but I also write about discernment and spiritual growth and coming to terms with what spirituality really is, and then learning how to apply all these things as we face the different circumstances that this world has to offer. There's a lot of adversity that every person has to overcome in life, and this book sheds a little light on that sort of thing. But in order for this book to get to this place, I've had to go through quite a journey just for that to happen. When I first agreed to write for God in 2011, I was going through a lot of difficulty in my personal life. At that point, when God healed me of every affliction that I had, He changed me up, and He changed the world up, and He says, look, this is where we're going to go from now on. So I started to write that book in 2011, and when I did, I was dealing with some personal finance issues and some relationship issues with my ex, and she wanted me to suffer in a way that she thought was right. So I went to jail in 2011 for rearages and child support at that time. And God said not to worry about it. This is where we were going to write. So we wrote the first book in 6 months, within 6 months. And then we were released and out. And we transcribed the whole book for the next couple of months. And all the while kept meeting with God. And He says, look, we're gonna have some more experiences. I want you to write about this stuff. When we were finished with those, he took me back into jail to finish writing the next 2 chapters for the next 2 months. And then I got out for 6 more months, and in that 6-month time frame, I was able to finish the editing process, and I found a publisher, and we managed to get all this published. Now, I didn't have the finances at the time to take care of this, but God blessed me with that, and we were able to raise the money to get the book published. Well, the day before it was time for me to go back to court to deal with these different types of misunderstandings, the book went to print. And that very next day I went to court, and they said, you're still not listening, you're going back to jail. And so I went back to jail, but I had that copy, the first copy of the book, mailed back to me. And when I finally received it, about a month later, I realized there were a lot of problems. There were many errors within the book, and there was a lot of things that were misspelled, and there were some parts that didn't read right. And I asked God if I could get out because the book wasn't finished, that I needed to get out. And he says, okay, well, be patient. I need you to hold on a second. So I talked to him about it for a few days straight, and on that fourth day, he says, I'm taking care of it. Hold on a second. So on the sixth day, they let me out. God allowed for the money to be raised, and the bail was paid, and the bond was paid, and they opened the door, and they let me out, and I went right back to the book, and I finished up the work, and got it right back to my editor a couple of days later, and it went right back to reprint, and the book was ready. And that happened right at the end of 2012 and the beginning of 2013. Now, I tell that story so that you understand what I've been doing for years now, is that I've been working continuously to do what he asked me to do. He asked me to deliver these messages, to write these books, to share these experiences with everybody in hopes of revealing what it is that he wanted us to understand. Spiritual views of otherworldliness, understanding what it takes to get to heaven, following in the path of Jesus, and doing the things that we're supposed to be doing on a daily basis. Now, it talks about all this stuff within the Bible, that those who bring something of God's message to the world, they often face persecution, and that comes from those who aren't doing things the way God asks us to do. So I've had to endure quite a bit of that. But, harder than the things that I've had to endure with jail are the experiences with those who are in jail. Not that I can't handle myself, because I have no problem with any person, and I'm not afraid of anyone anywhere. But the challenges that I faced come from those who have fallen from grace and who have fallen under the law. They're so far misled in their way that they don't understand that what they are doing is happening because they have been misled in their way. So when I endure encounters with them, not only do I face them and their misunderstandings, but I also face their demons, or the fallen angels that are misleading them. And so I partake in spiritual battles every night. Every night when I would go to sleep while I was in there going through all these difficulties, I was fighting. I was battling demons. I was battling fallen angels. I was battling the adversary. All that stuff was more difficult than going to jail any day. But that was the price that they needed in order for them to find their way. And hopefully they all did. But, after that last experience with that first book, I realized that I hadn't fulfilled completely what God had asked of me. He says that he needed me to share the story. And that's what brought us to the Eternus Spirare. And, as I began working on this, after that experience where I got out in 2012, the end of 2012, the beginning of 2013, the book went to print. Well, a few months later, I was called back into court again. And it was right around my birthday, and the judge says, I can't believe how selfish you are. Here you are, you're not listening to what I'm telling you to do. You're not doing this, you're not doing that. And I tried to explain. I said, Your Honor, look, I have this responsibility that I have to do this job. And she says, well, I can't believe you're so selfish. And meanwhile, the person who is trying to make me suffer for all this stuff is getting the satisfaction of thinking that she has me, that she's making me suffer. So again, both of these individuals who are trying to challenge the things that we're doing, or to keep this from coming out, don't recognize the position that they are playing in this entire experience. But anyhow, so they gave me 6 more months. By this time, this is the 5th or 6th year that I was going through this to deliver this message. And as I go in there in 2013, I'm sorry, this is the 4th or 5th year. As I go in there in 2013, in March, I start writing the Eternus Spirare. And I write from March, April, May, June, July, and they let me out in August. And I managed to write about 10 chapters. I did the layout, I did the wording, and I worked on it steadily for 6 months while I was there. Well, as I got out, and I hand wrote the entire book. So as I got out, I went straight to typing, and I typed the book up as best I could. It took me a couple of months to learn how to type it all up very fast. And within a matter of 3 or 4 months, I had a working copy, and I started to edit it, and I started to revise it, and I started to move the story forward. Well, within a 6-month time frame, I got served with more papers to go back to court. So I go back to court again. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, the 7th, 8th, or 9th time that I was going back to court for this very same thing. So I go back to court, and the judge says, I can't believe that you're still this person. I can't believe you don't care about anyone or anything. And meanwhile, again, the person who's making all this stuff happen is getting satisfaction from all this stuff, trying to prove that I'm living some lifestyle that's disapproving, that I'm not doing what is called of me, that, you know, she's trying to make something out of nothing. When the truth is that for years now, for 5 years at this point now, I've tried to talk to her, to find a resolution, to find a peaceable solution, to find what this whole thing would make this whole thing resolve. Again, still not finding any kind of godliness or any kind of understanding for the things that God's doing over here. So I pray for her and we move forward. So as I go back into jail this time, I had the book mailed to me. I printed it all up and I had the book mailed to me. And it was about roughly 8 chapters, I think. And I was in need of writing 4 more or 5 more. So I had the outlines. And as I worked continuously for the next 6 months, keep in mind that while I was in jail writing every day, I wasn't there playing games. I wasn't there, not doing what I was supposed to be doing. In fact, what I was doing while I was there was reading the Bible every day, that I was ministering to people every day, that I was writing these 2 books from sun up to sundown. In fact, that's what I did this time, is that I continued working on the Eternus Spirare while I was there. And I would work on that for half the day. And on the second half of the day, I started to write a new book. And that one was called One of These Days. So for the next 6 months, I wrote every single day. And I worked every single day. Monday through Saturday, I worked. Sunday, I went to church. Met with all the different ministers that came in through there. Ministered to all the different individuals who would sit down and want to do Bible study. And, worked on these things for years, year after year, month after month, for years to bring this to light. Well, on the last week that I was in jail, I finished the book, Eternus Spirare. And again, the opposition that we faced didn't appreciate the things that we were doing. And so two young men, one day, that last Sunday before I was released, went and stole the book, the Eternus Spirare. And they ripped it up, and they ripped it up into pieces. And they put it into a bucket, and then they put it in the shower and turned the shower on and decimated the entire book. Now, at this point, I've been working on this book for 18 months, and it was 370 pages long, and it was ready. And all I had to do was finish tightening it up a little bit, and then transcribe that last part and send it to the editor, and it would have been ready to go. But it didn't make it to that point, and when that happened, they called an investigation, and the entire jail, they did an internal investigation. They found out who did it. They moved them, but the book was lost. I mean, I understand that it was God's book, and that if that's what He was calling for, then that's what happened. But in that one instant, the 50 different individuals that were in the room with us, they all came to faith that one day, in that one instant. And for the next several days before I left, everybody understood the power of God. And, if that's what it took to reach those men, then that's what it took. But, I was a little upset at the fact that I had been working on this for nearly a year and a half. And then the book was destroyed. I still have pictures of it, of what it looked like afterwards. But, I ended up putting it in a plastic bag. And then, I was released a few days later, and, I didn't really understand what we were going to do or what direction, what was going to happen. But, I opened up the Bible that day and I asked God, I said, what are we going to do about all this stuff? When are we going to write this thing? And as I opened up the book, there was a piece of paper that was stuck in one of the pages that said One of These Days. And so I took it as a sign that, look, we're going to do that. It's just going to be one of these days. And so that's why I named the other book One of These Days. But anyhow, when we left, I had the other book that I titled One of These Days. And that turned out to be a 450-page book. And that one's ready right now. But As I got out within the next 2 weeks, by this point it was 2014 September, and I was trying to figure out what direction we were going to be moving in. And I got home and I prayed about it and I spoke with God about it, and I realized that I had 6 of the chapters saved already on hard drive. So I started reworking on that, and wouldn't you know it, within 2 weeks I managed to save about 2.5 of the chapters that were ripped up. So we basically had to rewrite about 3 chapters from scratch, which is better than a complete loss. But I spent the next 6 months working on the Eternus Spirare, trying to get it ready and finished. And it's April 2015 right now, and the book Eternus Spirare is with the editor, and it's in the final stages of its development. It's been 2 years in the making already, and it's been destroyed once in the process, but God willing, it's going to arrive soon. And when it does, it's going to help people better understand the spiritual truth of what things are really going on in this world. The types of opposition that we face from otherworldly places that get into the hearts and minds of people that we love or that we care about, or who say that care about us, but misuse people in a way that turns them against the faithful and the godly. So there's a powerful message that's going to be revealed through not only this book but through this walk. And I just wanted to share that with you because this is what I've been enduring for 5 years now, to bring these messages to light. And unless people really understand the truth of what it is that we're doing, it might not make sense why one person would endure such things. But if you look at the Holy Bible and you look at the things that the faithful have to endure sometimes to bring these works to light, I look at it like if you have to take a little dirt to save people's lives, then that stuff washes off, right? But I'm sharing this message with you, and I hope that it draws you to a faithful place. So I'd like to say God bless you, and I thank you for listening to this message. And I hope you read the book Eternus Spirare.